Hello and welcome to the Agribusiness Academy podcast. Today I'm delighted to be joined by Krishna Kumar, CEO of CropIn, and Dr Vijayender Nalla, founder of Agribusiness Academy. Hello to you both.
Hello, Tom.
Hello, Tom.
Thank you so much for joining me today. Throughout this podcast, we want to touch on the 4 key business model components that Agribusiness Academy believe are critical for scaling agri-tech companies. In our last podcast, we discussed these, and we felt the natural next step would be to talk to some of the most interesting and innovative companies in the world. When we were discussing this, Vijayender immediately thought of CropIn, and we're really grateful that Krishna could join us today. So that's been a great coup for the podcast. Perhaps before we start our questions for Krishna, Vijay, you could just give us a bit of an understanding of why CropIn appealed to you and to be our kind of first guest in reviewing one of these agri-tech businesses.
Yeah, sure, Tom. So actually, I've been kind of following agri-tech space almost for 7-8 years. And since then, so the only player in India that I could think of that I started at that time and have covered a lot of distance in terms of products, geographies is CropIn. So when it comes to business model components, I felt that CropIn must have covered or is covering most of those aspects well. So I thought we'll have a good learning from them and a good story for our audience.
Great. So without further ado, I guess we should get into our questions, and hopefully this will give you a little bit more of an opportunity to kind of introduce yourself, Krishna, and what you do for CropIn. So we know, as Vijay said, this CropIn are a real pioneer in agri-tech in India and internationally, with significant traction for your solutions and your products. Could you tell us a little bit about the journey and some of the things you've learned along the way?
Sure. So, thanks for giving this opportunity. This journey started back in 2010 when we actually launched CropIn, but it was much prior to that. So I used to work with Jeet at one of the time, on the leadership program. And one of the thought always I had was, how do we bring our learning back to the society, which adds a lot of value and creates, integrate the, downside of the value chain, like, the lower of the pyramid. And with that thought, I started looking at what should be something which I should build, which really has a larger impact on the, on the globe. And agriculture was the first thing because, at that point in time, I started reading about the distress in agriculture. A lot of farmers in the country were taking life because of the crop failure or they were under debt. And also I saw, the misery of throwing the crops on the road because they were not getting the right price. And that really instigate me, like, can't we, be being sitting in the Bangalore or Silicon Valley of India, and then we don't know what is happening 40 kilometers down the road, and the farmer has to throw his crops. So there was something I smelled messy. And I started thinking about, can we have a platform which brings the whole ecosystem much closer and solve the, some of the underlying challenges, which will, then we get rid of the crop failure or, adopting the climate change or, getting a market or working on the issues of soil degradation and all those stuff. So, with that thought, the CropIn came into being. And we said, let's tackle some of the challenges which is really there on the ground and build a platform which is more holistic and promises the per acre value for all the users of this platform. And it was too early. In 2010, basically, there was no telecom penetration right in the rural India, or the smartphones were not there. And then we envisioned that how can we bring a data-driven agriculture in this ecosystem to impact the per acre value. With that thought, we started CropIn. So, and we believe that, if you look at the larger problem, we are going to be 10 billion people, and then we have limited resources. And to succeed, we need a smart, sustainable solution for food, feed, and fiber. And we can only do that if we have enough information of the problem at the root level, and then try to solve it. And to have that, you need a decision of agriculture, which was not there. Even even if you look at the large corporation who are the part of the ecosystem, they don't have a digital interface which really connects them right from the farmer, the plot, the crop, and all the throughout the supply chain. They are very well established now post harvest, but it's difficult to figure out the whole supply chain, the pre harvest. And that was one of the things we said, let's introduce data driven farming approach, working closely with the ecosystem. So that's what the whole story behind the CropIn.
As I framed earlier, we want to talk about the four business model components that Agribusiness Academy focus on for scaling agri-tech businesses. And something we'd like to start with is the value proposition. Could you maybe take us through CropIn's products, your solutions, and the target customers for each of those?
Yeah. So, the way we approach this whole problem statement, we always thought that, there's no point solving the problem of a farmer or just for one entity in the ecosystem. It has to be holistic. And we said, who are the people who are, interacting with the farmer and adding value to that whole ecosystem should be our, first target point. So we also looked at, can CropIn be a player who can directly work with the farmer? And the answer was no, because if you look at India itself has got 600,000 plus odd villages. And then to reach out to every farmer in those villages will be entirely difficult task. Even if you have enough money, muscle, and power, it's difficult to reach out and really create impact. So we thought like, we are good at tech. We build the platform and we provide this platform to the organization or ecosystem player who can take this solution to the farmer. And it could be farming companies or seed production companies or government and advisory companies, or for that matter agri input companies who can really do justice to this particular who can really take this to the last mile. And so we built different. So we started with the just targeting the farming and seed production companies with one of the product called Smart Farm, which was helping them to reach out to the farmer and provide them right advisory, right from the package of practices, weather advisories and the pest related advisory on the real time, so that they can safeguard the crop. They can teach the farmer what is the best practices to adopt to improve the quality and the output, and also help them to adopt the changing climate and the practices accordingly. So, and then the value proposition for the customer was to build a better control, visibility, and predictability in their whole supply chain and the business. So now they know who is the farmer, what crop is he's growing, what variety, and what is the location of that particular plot, which was not there earlier. For the farmer, if you look at the value proposition, was he's getting advisory at the right time. He's able to produce more, and also improve the quality and the yield so that he can get a better price. So that's one use case with the farming companies. Similarly, seed production companies is very similar to the farming companies because they are multiplying seed with the help of the farmer in different part of the countries, and they want to really take a control of the supply chain, provide right advisory to the farmer, because the quality of the seed is going to is a main business model for the businesses, and they want to do it right at the first time with the help of the farmer. So that requires again helping the farmer to adopt right practices and resolving all his issues with the pest and input, spray, chemicals, and other stuff. And, we started working with the government and advisory agencies, where the government and advisory agencies basically they want to increase the improve the livelihood condition of the farmer, and then one of the way they can do it is to help them to produce better crop and yield and impact the quality for the farmer, so they can get a better price. And these are like mostly NGOs and the government-based organization who wants to impact the farmer with the right set of advisory. So they are some of our customers. But lately, while we were doing all these things, we saw that there is a lot of data getting generated on the platform about the plot, about the crop and the practices. And in 2015, we saw there is a critical mass of data, and we started questioning ourselves what we can do with this data. Can we build insights which can really impact the farmer or the businesses or the agronomist in a packaged way? And then that's how we came out with another product called Smart Risk, and started learning from that data. on the platform today, if you see, we are managing close to 265 different crops, 3,500 different varieties in 29 different countries. Now, with this data set, our machine learning algorithms and AI started learning that how does potato looks like. Can you detect a potato in a new country or a new region without even going there? Because you learned from the previous set of data. Or can you talk about the health of the crop, or can you talk about what could be the yield? Yield could be from that plot or that particular region. And so we build this smart risk layer on top of it so that we can give more insight to our customer. And customer means the farmer and the agronomists and the companies, managers, supply chain managers. So that's another product, smart risk, which layered on top of the smart farm. And then one of the other requirement was farm to fork traceability. Since you are engaging the farmer right from the beginning, right from the planning and then the sowing and then helping him to take the whole journey of the crop cycle, the whole product and the plot is traceable now. Now there was a demand for helping the organizations to manage the post harvest also, so that they can commit their customer traceable product. So the M warehouse came into being, which was managing the product when it is out of the farm, so that it can be graded, processed, stored, and then ship it to the client as per the compliance of different markets. So, for example, if you are shipping fruits and vegetables to Europe, you need to meet certain compliances on the pesticide or MRL uses, or the shape and size, color, and other parameters. And this system helps you to do that as well. So a customer who is buying a product in Europe can scan the product and he can come to know where it was grown and what conditions it has grown, whether it's compliant to the market and safe to eat or not. So that's where the M warehouse journey came into picture. Slowly, then we wanted to reach out to more number of farmers, and then we said, if you really want to impact large number of farmers, we need to work with the input side of the business, who is selling fertilizer, pesticide, or the bio fertilizers to the farmers, and they need to be educated. They need to touch base with a lot of farmers, and then they're going to provide advisory how to use those products in their farm to increase better results. And then we started targeting to meet those kind of companies. But one of the requirement came that it's good that we can use smart farm and smart risk to impact the farmer from the per acre value perspective, but we also need a smaller tool which can help us to manage the retailers and dealer side from where we are also pushing our products. And that's instigators to build a small hook that's called smart sales, so that the input side of business can use smart farm to engage the farmer, do all the Marcom activities, provide them right advisory from the climate perspective, from the package of practices perspective, and also from the satellite based advisory. But they can also parallelly manage their retailers and dealers activities, so that they can see the data in combination, that what their effort, how it's paying in terms of the different SKUs getting sold in that particular region. And the last product we recently launched was Acre Square, which was more farmer focused. So now, since the telecom penetration is on the higher side and the farmer does use a smartphone, not all, but the trend has started. So we wanted to give apps to them, which was very specific to his plot and his crop, which is growing now, and he can get all kind of advisory. So basically, company can engage the farmer on day-to-day basis on the apps. And so in terms of advising about best practices, sharing the videos, sharing the satellite images of the farm to tell him which part is not doing well, or giving them the yield indication that what kind of yield he can expect, or the climate-based advisory. So, and in that his own local language. So now our application talks in all global languages, right from, let's say, in Indonesia, there's a Bahasa as a language, or Spanish in some of the countries where it is a primary language which is spoken. Or we are also working in Japan, where farmers are actually using our application to manage their farm for farm to fork traceability. So so there are different products which we built over a period of time to engage different set of customers. But while we built this smart risk, which was giving insight to the farming companies or seed production and other companies, but we also saw the use case where bank can actually underwrite a loan to a farmer, and today they don't want to because there was no data around that particular farm. But the smart risk actually opened up that black box for the bank to tell him that what farmer did in 2013, how many crop he took, what crop he took, how much acre he actually planted, what was the how much the potential income he would have had. And opening up that black box gives the confidence to the bank to actually go and lend to the farmer. And for that, bank doesn't have to visit the farm. The CropIn algorithms can actually go and detect the farm, that on this particular plot what crop was grown in the past, without even talking to the farmer. So those kind of capability we built so that we can actually help the bank to lend, and that will increase the inflow of financial financial loan into this sector, which will also improve tomorrow, because that if the farmer has more money, he will do more experiment, and then he will add more value to his product. So Smartrix was also started. So we are calling it a Smartrix terminal, which is we are giving to the banks and the insurance companies to actually underwrite their loan or build new products and move more with more confidence in those regions with this insights. So this is pretty much on the product which we have built, and then the different use case for the different type of customers.
Wow, that was an amazing overview. I think this most companies might be happy if they just developed one of those products. So it's probably a mark of how innovative your company is, that you've created so much.
So I think this is a lot of question I get, that why do you focusing on so much product? But I see it as very strategic, because you cannot just touch one of the pinpoint and you run away with some revenue. But if you really want to impact, you have to have this journey with different products to touch base all the ecosystem player which is adding value to them.
And Vijay, maybe you have some thoughts on that.
Yes, I think this is a very interesting question I had myself. Why? How can you really have so many products touching up the entire value chain? And so I got the answer today. I was demoing their solutions. I think while CropIn is working on different solutions for different players in the value chain, the base of that is the farm. So it's all emanating out of the farm. So it's connected to the smart farm in that sense, right? So it's all an extension of smart farm. So that means while the core focus has not been shifted, while they have been covering a lot of other decisions within the supply chain, they're supporting other decisions within the supply chain. So I think that's the innovative bit, and that's, I think, the strategic bit of this particular thing. And maybe Krishna can correct me if I'm correct or wrong.
No, I think that's a perfect definition. So it's all about that. Everything starting from that 1 acre of the plot, whether somebody is trying to sell inputs to him or somebody wants to lend to this particular farmer based on that particular plot, or somebody wants to buy from that particular plot. So the story starts from there, and I think the product which we have is helping out to add value to all those guys who are trying to interact with the farmer. And the base product is a smart farm, because the story starts there.
Yeah. So that way, while you are extending it, extending across the supply chain, but the base, the core remains the same. So that makes it interesting, I think, because the connections become interesting. And I think you should stick to that focus where, or at least that's the outside in perspective. Of course, I'm sure you have a lot of insights from your case experiences that would tell you how to go, but from a domain perspective, from a value chain perspective, I think that key, because most of the other machine learning and other AI solutions that I've looked at and I look at their value propositions, they are very much top down in the sense, okay, let's get data from all sources and try to make it relevant, right? That's I think a little bit of a hope rather than, I think, realistic approach to building scale, in my point of view.
Perfect. Yeah, I think you nailed it here. So if you look at, most of the companies have to go and buy data or generate data to even get to an insight. Today, we have a mechanism to get the data and also get paid for that, and then we have to learn from data and give the insight back to the customer. And then our algorithms are becoming more smarter and smarter day by day, right? So I think it looks like that this is the way to go, rather than you invest into infrastructure to get the data from the ground, which is very, very costly.
And the connection with the data is also very important. It's not just about getting the data, right? You need to
Yeah,
also relate with the data, right? So that's
correct,
important.
correct.
So perhaps we could delve a little deeper into some of these incredible products that we've been hearing about. Maybe if we could start with Smart Farm, as you both kind of referenced that quite strongly. Could you tell us a little bit more about that, Krishna, and maybe the pricing model, and something else that occurred to us was the adoption challenges for Smart Farm?
Sure. So, Smart Farm is a product which helps basically is helping the organization to take their start their digital journey, right? So think about the companies like McCain's who are growing potato with the help of the farmer because they wanted to make fries for the customer. Or think about the companies who are trying to grow something in Africa or in India and trying to export to the countries like Europe and UK. Now, for them to do that, they need to connect with thousands and thousands of farmers at the background in the developing nations. Of course, because the farmer has a small land holding, and they have to have a control on the whole supply chain, because then you are promising freshness, you are promising that know where the crop is growing, what getting into it, what kind of pesticide and chemicals are sprayed, and whether it's safe to consume or not, right? Now, to get that kind of a control and also increase your efficiency and productivity of the supply chain, you need to have a data-driven approach towards this, and that's where the Smart Farm fits in. Which the story in the Smart Farm starts from the what crop you want to grow, and then how many farmers you plan to bring on the platform, and then you go and geotag all those farmers with a mobile application which we have. And the moment you do that and the farmer takes the crop, the system start telling the farmer that what need to be done at the next step. For example, let's say after 2 days you should be applying a weasel dose in your farm, or after we are suspecting tomorrow morning a frost attack at your farm, and this is how you should solve it. So start guiding you step by step so that you are successful in your journey of your crop, growing of your crop, and end up with a good harvest. While that is happening, the organizations which are working with the farmer, they have got their customers, and their customers wants to have a visibility whether he's going to able to supply the material which I've requested for. So now, since they are all digitized, they can give this information, pass on this information to their customer that we are in line with the commitment which we have made to you. And then the customer gives them a specification that my products should look should have the shape or the color or the sugar content or MRL limits on the crop. So they give all kind of a specification which has to pass for that particular market. And this in our system, you create a customer, you create the requirement of that customer in a system, and all the checks and balances there. And so let's say once you are ready to ship to that customer, you get into the system and say, let's pack for Tesco or Sainsbury or any other customer. If you are trying to ship it to, the system will tell you which farmers plots are ready for, meets all the norms, and you can harvest. So the system generates those lists, and then they go and harvest those plots, bring it to their pack house, clean it, sort it, grade it, store it, and then create a pun it out of it, and then a box, and then to a pallet which can be shipped to the customer. So so we help them to all the journey. So right from the Smart Farm product, which gives you a complete distillation of your whole workflow and the supply chain, and then feeds into and that's basically that takes the journey till the end of your customer as well. So your customer is now much more confident that the product which you are procuring from these countries or these farmers or this company is much more compliant, and I can promise my customer the food safety and then regulation, that we are meeting all the regulation like all the large brands. So that's how the Smart Farm basically helps the customer and also to the farmer to some extent.
So we're curious to learn more about Smart Risk too. Again, you've kind of given us the broad overview, but could you give us an idea of how this impacts the agri chain?
Sure. So if you look at Smart Risk, it's more of a predictive and prescriptive in nature. So it's learning from the data, and so it's learning about all the crops which are on the platform, and then trying to predict that what could be the yield, or what is the health at this point of time, what the yield you can expect, and then also help the banks and the insurance company to underwrite the product. So basically this is our inside product which cut across all the other products. So smart risk also feeds the input to smart farm for the supply chain managers to understand what they're up to and what they can expect from their farms, remote farms, so that it gives a prediction to them. It's also help them to think through, like, if you are working with 10,000 farmer, then these are the 10% farms which are not doing well based on the smart risk prediction. And then you can laser focus your attention towards improving, looking into the issues of those farms and improving on top of it. So basically we divide every plot into 10 by 10 meter, and we talk about what is the health of that 10 by 10 meter, and then there's some summarize to the whole acre on which the crop is lying today. So we can tell you which patch is doing well, which patch is not doing well, and then based on that, what could be the yield you can expect out of the farm. So so basically it's a complete machine learn programs which is helping the customers or supply chain manager to become more smarter and take better decisions. Now if you look at the use case from the banking perspective, they want to open up the black box of the farmer, so with whom they're thinking of underwriting a loan. So basically they ping the farmer name and there's his plot details to us, and then the system looks into the plot coordinates and tells him that what all crops has been grown in last 3 years, what was the health, and what was the income he would have generated, and that helps him to generate certain score which on based on which the banks underwrite a loan. The post loan has been sanctioned, we also help them to audit the farms period in a let's say every 15 days, that how the crop is growing, whether the farmer has taken the crop or not, or what is the health of the crop, or when the crop is getting matured, or whether he has started the harvesting. So bank doesn't have to go and do a manual audit to get this information. It can done through the technology. So in other way, we are trying to bring down the cost for the bank so that they can expand at a much faster rate and impact large number of farmers in terms of financial inclusion, or providing those financial assistance to those farmers. So we are working with a lot of NBFCs, banks who are working on the lower value chain, trying to fund these farmers for their crop loans or their implement loans or tractor loans. So that's the smartest product. Today we can. So recently we did a work in Nigeria. We mapped the whole Nigeria as a country, and we actually detected every pixel, that which pixel is on, let's say, wheat or barley or corn, and for one of our MNC client, and also told them that what is the total acreage on the ground, what is the crop breakups, what is the crop health, and what could be the yield you can expect, so that they can take a better decision of sourcing and the planning their whole raw materials from different regions. So this is how we are trying to build insight for different kind of a customer base using the smart risk. It's also, so smart risk again feeds the intelligence to M warehouse, to smart sales, and also to the acre square. So that becomes a intelligent interface cutting across all our products.
And Vijay, you might have some thought on that.
Yes, actually, I reviewed this product quite closely. I've asked a lot of questions to to Krishna's team member this morning, and the reason why I was very keen on this product is when you look at it from a supply chain perspective, from the downstream, that is more from the processing and retail perspective, sourcing is a very big challenge. It's the biggest opportunity, but at the same time, is a big challenge. Other than the lending bit, which is again very important from a farming perspective, but when you look at it from the closer to the folk perspective, I think sourcing and sustainable sourcing happens to be the core of the food and agribusiness companies. So and because this is bottoms up again, the smart farm driven insights, and then combining that with top down like remote sensing and other technologies, and powering it up with data science and all that. So I think there is some great merit in this product, in trying to position it right and pitch it right, and I think this is the need for the industry. I guess that was my sort of an understanding based on what I have seen or heard about it. Yeah.
So basically, the whole idea of SmartRace was to give more data-driven insight, package insight to the right ecosystem player to take decisions. So, for example, this insight is going back to the farmer in terms of health and the yield prediction, and which part of the farm is not doing well. At the same time, supply measures taking better decisions, or banks are trying to underwrite the loan. So we build this whole interface thinking of tomorrow. It should be like an Intel inside a farm, right? So it should know about every pixel on the globe, and build a layer of insight on top of it, and then share that insight with the right people to take. So, for example, we are also using this product for the Indian government from the reducing the crop cutting experiment in the country, because today government has rolled out a program to cover every farmer in the country under the crop insurance scheme, but then there's a dearth of people who can really go and do the crop cutting experiment in the region, so that they can underwrite basically they can cover for the insurance, or right, but that is not possible. So we don't have so many skilled people to do those kind of experiments, so they are now using technology so that we can reduce the crop cutting experiment by 40%, which is a drastic reduction in the cost, as also in terms of validation, in terms of precise insights into it. So it has a many applications. Even the government is using it for the policy making as well, because they can now have a holistic view of a country, looking at every pixel that where they should intervene, and then how the pricing is going to be based on the number of acres sown in the country. So they can take so many decisions based on that.
Very good. Yeah, absolutely. I think you should really focus harder and harder and make it more strategic, because I think throughout the value chain, starting from seed companies to all the way to the retailers, I think getting a feel for the risk within the supply chain, especially in what I would call as a proactive risk mitigation or risk planning possibility is not there in the supply chain at this point in time. So. Broadly speaking, so I think that's a key advantage. And a case that came to my mind with our recent work was with a seed company. It's a very well established seed company, but their revenues could be 100 million or 400 million, depending upon the production output of the growers that are growing their seeds. For example, so it's a huge risk for a company of that kind, right? So and having real-time data is possibly going to change their business drastically, or have a positive impact on their business drastically. Yes.
So here, a lot of seed companies are our customers, and one side they try to digitize their whole program so that they can have enough insight to intervene within the season to improve the quality and the yield from every farm where the seed are getting produced. At the same time, they are getting insight through the SmartRace that how many plots are not going to do well, so they have a production output estimation as well at much beforehand the harvest, so they can plan for the adversities as well.
Okay, so I'm sure you could discuss this all day, but for the sake of progressing through our business model components, I shall move on. So another one of our core pillars is distribution. Could you give us an idea, Krishna, of CropIn's distribution strategy, how that aligns with the value proposition? And something else that was occurring to me was how this plays out internationally. You've spoken about lots of different countries and lots of different languages. So how you kind of manage all of those aspects as well.
Yeah, so so we are like B2B SaaS based product, and our customers are all, till now the strategy is to go to work closely with the B2B guys, and we have built a complete wholesale org chart, and the marketing team, and also the inside sales team, who is helping us to reach out to different customers, educate them on the different products which we have sitting here at Bangalore. So inside sales job team is to educate the customer, have a Skype call with those customers, talk about the product which we have, and then try to see their interest level. And there is a field sales team which works in different geographies. So we divided the world in our interest of countries are like in Southeast Asia, Europe, LATAM, and Africa, of course India. And for every region there is a dedicated inside sales team, then there is a marketing team who is generating the inbound leads for them, and there's a field sales who is trying to go and meet the larger clients and enterprise client and trying to close them in those regions. So till last year we were traveling from India to those countries and sitting there for 15 days and trying to meet 20 clients and trying to close it. But from this year we are now having our own team in this in all these 4 geographies to station there, to work locally there and increase awareness of the CropIn product and the brand in those regions. So that's one approach which we have taken, and we want to do it ourselves because this is a brand and we want to control the the quality, the way we want to present in front of the customers. We are also trying to partner with value chain players like Buller. So we have done a partnership with them while they work on the various supply chain, like they sell machineries to the processing companies like rice millers and coffee processors, and they are also trying to put CropIn, sell the CropIn to their customers, because then they can take the solution and take it towards the farmer so that the quality, they can improve the yield and the quality, which is again going to be processed through their own machines. And so there we are co-selling our products to all the customers. So those kind of partnership we are looking at. We also work with the consulting companies like ENY and the other companies who are consulting the large brands or the government on the agri digitization part, and we participate with them as a solution partner to those companies. So these are some of the approach we have taken, but we have not really gone deep with the reseller model because it's a little bit difficult sales, and because this is a new concept and this industry have just started talking the digital language. Not even the largest MNCs had this kind of approach prior to 2 to 3 years back. So we want to do it ourselves as of now, but we are also exploring the way of partnering with the right resellers and doing integration with a different platform which helps you to sell your product together. So these are some of the strategy we are following right now, Tom.
And actually, you kind of covered a lot of things. I was going to ask you in the next question in terms of partnerships and how you kind of build those in order to scale the products and the company. And maybe Vijay has some kind of elements to follow up with you on that aspect too, because that's the next kind of big pillar of ours in our business model framework.
Yeah. So I think one of the things I see is, the fundamentals are right. From an outside-in perspective, the fundamentals are right. There is a lot of experience that has been built into this business and these products, so that is an added advantage. But having said that, agriculture is very localized in each country, so I think going there direct and having that bottoms up learning is very critical. So there must be a strategy. It could be a project based model, or it could be a country based model, it doesn't matter, but there has to be a localization strategy one way or the other, where there is a very core intelligence that is coming back into the products or into the organization and products, of course, at every geography level, and kind of see how you can try and build alignment between different countries, I guess, or between different markets. So I think one of the challenges would be in terms of being able to overcome the localization aspects. How do you really build teams in the geographies that you think are very interesting market opportunities or project opportunities?
Sure.
Maybe Krishna can tell it from his experiences, but that's my perspective.
Yeah, I think you are right. Like, once we started looking international, that we want to really go international with our product because we saw the need there. but one of the always be hesitant that do we have a right market fit in those markets. So in early days, we started working with some of our clients who are our customers in India, but they do have a presence in different countries. So we took some projects, implementation we did in Europe, we did it in Southeast Asia and also in Africa. That helped us to learn about different nuances of localization, which was required to be built inside our product, like languages, the locale, like in India you use decimal, but in Europe you use comma, correct? And then how does those things actually can be adopted in our platform? And then the different language you need to bring in, because in Japan you need Japanese to when you are working with a farmer. And also we wanted to make this platform crop agnostic and location agnostic, so that we have built a framework. So when somebody adopts in that particular country or that particular region for different crops, they can actually configure the system for that particular crop according to their workflows, their package of practices. So no way on this globe anybody can be a master of all the crops and all the practices of all different geographies and location. Now what CropIn does is it gives you a platform product which can be configured for your own local it can take shape of your localization, and it can cater to the local need of your crop. And so for example, a same company who is doing corn in Indonesia, and then he's also doing corn in, let's say, somewhere in Brazil and then also in Africa, on our platform, they can configure 3 different practices, or even they can create a practices for different varieties on the platform. And that framework help us to actually really penetrate deep in any market without doing a lot of any customization on our platform. It's more like a configuration. So we realized this very early when we were working with this agri ecosystem, that every customer is different. Even in India, we go and work with 3 different clients who are doing the same crop, have a very different approach towards producing that crop in that particular location. So we took care of this while we try to take care of in India. It also helped us to scale up globally. We also work very closely with our customers in different countries. While we are acquiring new customers, we are getting new insights. Then we are looking, we do discuss in our product sprint that what makes sense for us, and then what is the roadmap, can we add it in our roadmap, and what is the strategic advantage we are going to get in the market this particular product feature. And that's how we keep, it's a ongoing story. So you have to keep building your product, keep innovating on top of it to always be ahead in the game. Yeah, hope I answered the question.
Yes. I think I think you're kind of doing it right. I think then possibly Tom has a question later on, which was related to building localized teams. I think that would possibly be very important. Again, I'm originally from India, and I've lived in several of these countries, European countries. I kind of look at how things happen in Africa a little bit, so I can clearly see that localized teams. Feeding in, owning the responsibility of CropIn, and sharing the ambition and the approach of CropIn, working in those markets can make a lot of difference from a scaling perspective. That was my feeling when I again was reviewing your products and your approach and the depth with which you were working. So you might want to comment on that. If
Sure. I mean, it's definitely going to help us if we can build as localized team, and that's what we are trying to do now. In every market, we are going to have a feet on the ground, working very closely with the customers, which is again going to add a lot of insights, which is going to convert into as a product feature. So we have already started in Africa. We have already have in Southeast Asia, and the Europe chapters already started. And we understand that you always have to build solution for that market. You don't try to fit in a product which is already built for one market and trying to impose another market. So yeah, so I think in the long run this is really going to add a lot of value, and we have started investing in that direction as well.
Yeah, no, that's good. That's very good. I could feel it this morning again when I was talking to your team. But I think building the product for the local market is the easiest bit. I think building the team possibly is the most difficult bit, because with team you would look like a crop in Netherlands, a crop in UK, right? With the team makes it look like that is a local product. It belongs to that particular market, so to speak. Like, so that's. That's very very important. Whether it is ability to connect with the culture of that place and the trust. In this case, it's all about trust, isn't it? Maybe you have experienced that in your work model as well. Yeah. So yeah, great, KK. Thank you.
Maybe we should finalize our thoughts on that kind of talent for scale whilst we're on the topic.
So today, there are various approach. We are trying to learn from the different product companies who have gained and had a scale globally. What we are seeing as a trend that we have a B2B approach, so we are trying to work with the clients who have got multi-country approach. And once you acquire them, you go into, let's say, 10 countries or 20 countries. That's our first goal. So we are not going very country specific. We are going because we want to acquire more and more data from a global from the global perspective, so that we can learn and we can provide much more value to this whole ecosystem. And agriculture is something which is happening everywhere. Most of the food is grown in Africa and Southeast Asia. Of course, LATAM as well, and the US. So if we look at CropIn, you work with, let's say, listen, Syngenta, then you work with 20 countries. We go to directly in 20 countries implementation, and then you started working with various different crops in the seed production business. You work with, let's say McCain, you go to another 20 countries because they're growing potatoes in all those countries because they're making fries out of it. So that's the strategy today have been. And then we are going to then after certain time frame, we are going to take a country-wise approach. So right now we have kept it open based on the going after the biggies first, and then later to taking the other steps with other customers.
What I feel, again, we are reviewing the whole market within the agri-tech and how solutions are popping up. So I would think that while you have now so far established a big customer, multiple country strategy, I think you might also want to consider a localization strategy in the countries that you saw as very potential countries within that particular bunch of countries that you have worked with, because there's a lot of agri-tech solutions. Again, when it comes to the choice, and this again is a very industry specific, it doesn't work like the technology industry where you're not necessarily looking for the best solution out there. You're looking for the most accessible solution there is. So and a lot of personalization plays a role. So if growth internationally is your mandate, I think there is a great deal of work that can be done from that perspective. Having your talent understand the domain like you do. I mean, I'm surprised now being on the call on this podcast with you, how much you understand agriculture and the subtleties of it and the dynamics of it. How much the rest of the team, 150, 120 people that you have built, how well they can relate with the dynamics of the industry. They all make a lot of difference, I guess, to the scaling aspect. From a CropIn perspective. So there is no Agribusiness Academy context here. It is more from a CropIn perspective.
I think you're right. Like organizations are built by people, and definitely we are tapping the right set of talent who can really help us to break through in some of the areas which we want to scale. Also from the scaling perspective, we are already debating about, shall we go deep into one countries or shall we take this B2B approach? I think parallelly we are working on the both. As I said, B2B are helping us to go to multiple country strategy and then acquire multiple different kind of data sets from those regions. At the same time, we are focusing in certain regions which has a large appetite to adopt this kind of a technology and going deep into that So that's the job of that regional leader whom we are building. When he's mapping the market, since we have a presence in, let's say, East Africa and the West Africa, then in which country we want to penetrate more. So then that discussion come on board when we are having discussion with those people. But at the global stage, we want to work with the larger players because they touch base, large number of farmers on their day-to-day business, and that helps us to bring, large number of farmers on the platform, and then that's exactly proportional to the data coming on the platform. Yeah.
Yes. So I think, yeah, that's a good point. I think that's a good strategy, but I didn't have any problem with your model. I think B2B is the model to go. I was only talking about the team localization. So what I was mentioning was like, there would be, if you go into Netherlands, or Netherlands is a very small country, but if you go into Germany, for example, right? So you'll still target the local German businesses. You will still try and get into local German projects, possibly with some international scope or even otherwise. In a B2B model, B2C possibly would be very difficult internationally if in India you find it difficult, I think internationally you'll find it more difficult, being an Indian company at the root.
Yeah. I think it's very difficult to build a model where the farmer pays for it. And to scale it up, because then you are talking about, if you talk about India, there's 140 million farmers. If you're talking about, let's say US, there is close to 200,000 farmers, right? So then, creating a value proposition, convincing every farmer to join the platform, or even doing a marketing on that. So it's a very costly affair, and then to generate the ROI. But yeah, I mean, different businesses have their own strategy. Somebody's working in B2C, they have their own strategy, and then we took a path of B2B, being started in India. Yeah.
No, but B2B is the right model for all markets, apart from with an only exception being the US, because in the US each farm is like a farming business in a way, right? So I think other than US, I possibly would recommend several agri-tech companies to go the B2B route. Not easy routes. I mean, B2B has its own challenges. I'm sure you know much more than I do. But I think I really like that B2B. So you have had a B2C learning, and then I saw your journey, and that was also very interesting, right? So,
Correct.
and I could see that. I just have a couple of practical questions from a talent perspective, if that is okay. Again, just to know how you approach the talent perspective, because we speak a lot to the agri-tech businesses, and predominantly, if you look at agri-tech business team portfolio, it is like 98% or even 100% tech talent, not so much of domain talent, right? And I think that is going to be one of the biggest challenges to scale, especially if you would have a B2B model to speak. So what is your talent, mix combination strategy, whatever? You might want to educate on that.
I think, yeah, sure. And since we are a tech platform, definitely we are hiring from all the domains of technology, right from, data science and the machine learning, then BI side, then the mobility, and then website also. At the same time, we're also trying to get the agronomy side of the expertise, and then the climate side of the expertise. We are looking for crop modelers, right? So who can really work with the parallel with the data science team, and then R&D team to evolve different solutions, very localized to certain crops and geographies. So I think if you are in agri-tech, you need all the combination of skill sets to actually build a solution. Yeah, and to find such combination is very, very difficult today. Who understand the tech bit and then also have a agri side of the knowledge, because this is a very nascent thing coming up in the market.
Yeah. I agree with you, but it is not impossible, because you have learned, right? You have learned agriculture.
Correct.
So, Yeah. So yeah, that's I think a very good way to really be an agri company. See, what I feel is when I talk to agri tech companies, what I miss is that they are not agri companies by heart. From heart,
Yeah.
they are tech companies from heart. So then it becomes very difficult to relate with the industry, to grow with the industry, and help the industry grow. So it's always the founders who possibly at best know a lot about agriculture, and then that's it. Then it doesn't spread across the organization, and I think that is an area that is going to define possibly the scale. Because one of the reasons why I say this is because whether you have a super sophisticated technology product or a less sophisticated technology product, the industry is not yet able to distinguish that aspect.
Mm-hmm.
But what the industry is definitely able to distinguish is how well you connect with their business, their value chain, their way of looking at their world, right? So that is a very key factor, I guess, from my own experience, and I think that is, in my view, one of the biggest challenges for scaling. One of the things that they might want to learn from KK is, what at this stage of his business, what are the bottlenecks that he that is like limiting the scale that he has on paper or in his vision. So what are the challenges he foresees? I think that would possibly a very good ending point to this very exciting story, I guess, right?
Yeah, great.
Sure. I mean, if you look at, we just raised our Series B funding, and then one of the biggest ask which we have from ourselves is how do we grow 3x or 4x or 10x? And one of the question you asked about the distribution. So we have to very quickly, experiment different distribution model, and then stabilize as one which is giving you results, and then you have to orient your orientation around the sales should really align to what is working, what is not working out. Though the other piece which we are trying to solve is the people, because people are going to be very important while you are taking a journey of scale, and finding the right set of people. And then when you are trying to go global, then you are hiring people locally, and then you have to work with the cross culture and then different kind of people, right? So you have to learn fast, you have to adopt those changes, and then scale along with them. So these are two things which I see is my burning challenge today. That how do we scale from the perspective of distribution and reach out to many more customers to scale the product and the revenue side of it. Second, how do we find the right talent which is very aligned to what we do, and then and who is going to give us on a scale of 3x? Like we always ask the question that if he joins the company, are we going to grow with the 3x with his inputs into the company? So I think these are two things. If we figure it out right this year, I think it's going to be a great year for us.
So this year meaning the next 15 days, you mean, or 2019?
So our so since I'm from here, another 12 months, I'll say that.
Right. So I think the second point you've made, I think you're spot on with it. I think it's always the distribution and the people. But I always have this fundamental philosophy, and for the right reasons, I am working on that solution. So it's in my interest to have that hypothesis that if you address the people's challenge, then the distribution that's the only way to address the distribution challenge. That is to address the people's challenge. And actually every other challenge any entrepreneur would have, I guess. But there's so many things that go on in a startup's life that or startups day-to-day life, I would say, that it's always very difficult to give enough attention to the team building and to really strategize is to experiment on people and to kind of build talent bottoms up as well, while you need top down talent to give you the immediate results. But I think the bottoms up talent would also be
very critical, I guess, very fresh talent. And, yeah.
In the very start of my journey, somebody asked me like, what is your biggest challenge today? And my answer was, if I would have raised funds and if I had enough money, I'll do 1, 2, 3, 4, and I'll solve my problem. And he laughed at me. He said, "Hey, Krishna, I think you're right at this point of time, but I'll meet you after 1 year or 2 years, and I'm going to ask you the same question, and you will have a very different answer because you will have money in the bank, but your problem will be multifold, and the money is not solving that problem." And actually, I realized when I raised my fund, our plan was to get people on board, and it took 6 months to 7 months to actually, close all the positions which we had. So we had the money, we started looking for people, and we could not get it, and the whole plan derailed. So I think in very early stage we learned that money is not it's not that the money is going to solve the problem. There are other important problems which you need to sort it out. Money is one of the enablers.
Yeah.
So that's
money is
the advice.
money is needed. It's the fuel, right?
Yeah.
The fuel
Correct,
to get it done. It's not the engine. The engine is the people. That is you. Like if CropIn is about KK and his vision, then it is all about how many more people can connect to that vision and that ambition. I think it will decide the distance that CropIn will go. And from what you have done in the last 8 years, you seem to be learning and doing and hitting on the right spots, and we hope and we look forward to.
Thank you, and that is some very poignant points to finish on. I think that's there'll be some great lessons there for a lot of people listening to this podcast, and a lot of people kind of learning from it within the agri-tech space. I guess the final thing to do, Krishna, is just ask you if people want to find out more about CropIn and maybe yourself, where's the best place to head? So that would be your website, CropIn.
Website
.com, is that right? Yeah.
And then LinkedIn. So they can always ping me on the LinkedIn and then website. Yeah.
Great. So thank you so much for joining us. As we've kind of we've said many times, we appreciate your time, and this has been a real interesting podcast as we can kind of really apply what we've been discussing to a real business and hear all of the successes, but also all of the challenges. And I think it's been really insightful for us and for everyone who's listening, I'm sure.
Well, thanks for this platform. I think I really enjoyed the discussion here, and there was a lot of learning for me as well.
Great. And Vijay, of course, thank you as always for joining us. I shall sign off there, and we'll see you on the next podcast.